First step is quorum. David?
Joe Plankis,
Here.
John Dart,
Here.
Brian Tomamichael,
Here.
Larry Kemper,
Here.
Steve Latour,
Here.
Carrie Larison.
Okay, we have a quorum. Thank you very much. Next step is Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance. Thank you very much. Okay, we have no changes to the agenda for tonight, so the first order of business is the minutes from November 17th. We have any questions or changes on the minutes? If not, I'm open for a motion for approval.
Motion to approve the minutes from November 17th, 2025.
Okay, motion by John Dart. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Brian Tomamichael, thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plankis,
Aye?
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Tomamichael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper,
Aye.
Steve Latour.
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Next item is the executive session memorandum from November 17th. Any comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion for approval?
A motion to approve?
Okay, Steve Latour, second. I'll second it. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plankis,
Aye?
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Tomamichael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper,
Aye.
Steve Latour.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Financial matters, do we have any questions on the clerk treasurer's reports? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the next item, which is the approval of claims. We have any questions or comments in regards to claims?
A motion to approve the claims.
Okay, motion by John Dart to approve claims. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Brian Tomamichael. David, please take the roll.
Joe Plankis,
Aye?
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Tomamichael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper,
Aye.
Steve Latour.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Janelle, Executive Director report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to give you a brief update on some of the things that are happening in our downtown. These first 3 slides that I'm going to show you today are for projects that we're going to be talking about in our action items today. The first is Park and Poplar. We have been talking about this project for quite some time. No changes have been made here to the slide since the last time you saw it, I don't believe. This was introduced in November to City Council for a bond ordinance. It will go back to City Council on Monday. And we are here today asking for your support of the project as well. This is, actually, we're not here today getting anything from Park and Poplar. We don't need anything from you today. I'm just providing an update. It goes to City Council. It went to EDC earlier today, but has not come to the RDC today. Oh, we do. All right, never mind. I'm losing track. We have had 6 meetings today. I've lost track of what is on what agenda.
You're
Dustin
forgiven.
has left me corrected. Park and Poplar, this is a development by Old Town Companies, which is located at the Midland Trace Trail, just south of Park Street at Poplar or Westfield Boulevard. This is about a $123 million project, and this is our project that we have applied for Ready 2.0 grant dollars. We are pre-approved for a Ready 2.0 grant of $4 million, still working through some adjustments to their application process. The IEDC, as I understand, just wants to have a very clear vision of what their investment is doing to spur economic growth in Indiana. So they're asking for some very specific information about how the project is impacting the city. Rather than it just being the investment in the parking garage, they're really looking at the overall investment into the development itself. So we expect that final application will go back to the IEDC in January, and we should have no issues getting approval based on all the conversations I've had with IEDC staff. So again, that is a $4 million grant. The balance of the garage will be paid for by an additional grant, which was approved previously for funding of the parking garage, as well as the bond itself, which will be coming before you and before City Council here today and next week. I would like to explain, and I'm sure that Dustin will go into this a bit as well during the action item. We are requesting more money than is necessary in the bond approval, so that in the event the ready dollars are not provided to us at the point that they need to be spent for the garage, that we are able to cash flow until we receive the ready dollars. The hope is that we are only issuing a single bond for the amount that is required to bridge the gap between the grants and the total cost of the garage. But again, we've left the approvals here in the event that we did need a temporary cash flow until the ready grant is received. The mixed-use development here will include approximately 240 luxury multifamily units, 56 brownstone apartments. These are the ones that you see on the photo at the upper right. It's a new product for Westfield. It's a walk-up that has a 2-story townhome style for rent apartment over a single-story apartment on the first floor. There are 56 of those, and then we have about almost 10,000 of commercial and retail space in the development, in addition to 2 30,000 square foot office buildings. Those office buildings are intended to be the upper 2 stories as office, and the first story would be primarily retail, but could house some more professional type offices, realtors, banks, that type of thing. The project will deliver over 523 structured parking spaces to our downtown. This is oversized for the development needs itself, including the 90 surface parking spaces. This overall development will more than meet the demand that is required here at the development, and the additional parking is there to support our existing businesses in downtown that currently are underparked. It will also be coordinated with adjacent development of the trail and the public plaza that will separate the 2 office buildings. We're working in collaboration with Public Works and the Parks Department on the design of the plaza, which will be a part of the Park Street streetscape improvement project. The trail itself will be improved as part of the Old Town development. I do want to highlight here too that the park impact fees and the road impact fees are going to be applied towards the plaza construction, which is being managed by the city. One other project that we'll be bringing to you today is a request for a grant from the RDC to the Community Development Corporation. We have realized, as we have been trying to attract businesses to the city of Westfield, that we have a lack of temporary office space. Actually, we have a lack of all office space. There is nothing for rent. We had a study completed in the fall by Avis & Young. They did a study of existing spaces throughout the city of Westfield, and they came to the same conclusion that there is literally nothing available that we can offer to businesses that would like to locate here. So for example, if we have a professional services firm that would like to open a Westfield location, there is no space available for them to rent a small suite. If we had a company that wanted to build a field office here while they're constructing a project locally, there is no place for them to rent, other than maybe taking some retail space, which we don't necessarily want them to be doing either. When we're trying to attract businesses that are in our target markets, sports technology, advanced manufacturing, other types of more, well, really all of our attraction projects that we're looking at that support Grand Park and the industrial development that we have in North Point, we would like to have places that we can temporarily house these businesses while they're building out their forever home or while they're building out a tenant space within an existing or new facility. This would enable us to have places where these companies could come to work temporarily in kind of a what we call hot desking situation. It would also allow for companies to rent a small suite. Say they have 2 or 3 employees and they would like to have a space where they lock a door. They would be able to have that space for a short period of time until they move. We could also house some companies that maybe in the 6 to 8 company size range might be able to have a small office suite here where they can share conference room space with others. And then that would also be shared, of course, with the companies that are using that hot desking. We would need conference rooms. We'd be looking for some event space so that the companies that are locating here, our entrepreneurs, have opportunities to develop relationships with one another, share a cup of coffee, share a meal, maybe share some sort of evening type event where they can get to know each other a bit better, or bring in opportunities for them to learn. We really think that there's an opportunity for us as the city to provide programming to these businesses and help them be more successful. It's been shown that new businesses that are provided mentorship and programming, they will have an increased survival rate for their startups. So if we as the city can help match them with mentors, business partners, community members who can help them be successful. These are the people that will help them find funding, who may find investors for them. They may be their customers. They may be exactly their target market. They may connect them to exactly the next person that they need in order to bring their product to market. So we think as a city, we can help facilitate these things. It also helps us brand our city. When we can go to a company and we can tell them that we have a space where we can welcome them in and we can make them a part of our entrepreneurial environment, it makes us more attractive to a company that is looking to move. Furthermore, I think that this will really increase our exposure to entrepreneurial activity. Us having a space that is designed for people who are building their businesses, whether it's from the ground up or learning how to accelerate it further. I think that this just, it adds an element to our economic development strategy that we have not been able to deliver on any scale, small or large. This also sets us up well to be prepared for the space that we're planning at Grand Park. As part of the Grand Park Master Plan, there's a facility that is intended to go immediately adjacent to the Grand Park Event Center. We really see this as a space where those leaders in the sports technology world can come and share their ideas with other leaders. This would be a trophy space. When I say trophy, I'm thinking of something similar to what you'd have in downtown Indianapolis at High Alpha, where there are podcast studios where people can create their marketing materials. There are presentation spaces where they could bring in a group of people to pitch their product, and there are places where people can have small or large meetings in private spaces, and they can be sure that their information is being kept confidential, or that they're able to collaborate with the people that they need to. Having this space will really help us be more prepared to build all of the amenities and services that we need in order to be successful in that future space at Grand Park. Whether this space will remain after the one at Grand Park exists or not is to be determined. This location is really long-term a prime location for a headquarters to be located. It has immediate visibility at US 31. It's within walking distance of the high school. And so when we are ready to retire this location, I think that the city should do very well to bring a business here and be able to offer this as a future home of something really special. We are talking about some partnerships locally. I don't have particular partners that I can mention at this time other than some locals that are right here in Westfield, including Westfield Washington Public Schools. Temporarily, we would be leasing this space that they're currently occupying for their facilities department until they open up their new facility in March. But long-term, we really do hope that we can have a collaboration with the schools. Being within walking distance, we're hoping that there will be students that would be interested in internship opportunities in the incubator space, that we may have opportunities for labs or other equipment at the school to be rented by some of these entrepreneurs, and that there could be interaction between the entrepreneur programs and the new facility that is there on the south side of 181st Street to really bring the business community and the students together. Westfield Washington Public Library has expressed interest in potentially building their expanded makerspace here in this building as well. We see this as a great opportunity to provide some community interaction into a place to make sure that it has a bit more life to it. No one wants to go to a workspace that no one else is at. You really want to go somewhere where you have other people, you can see people doing things, people interacting, people coming and going, and you don't feel like you're the only person in the building. By having the library component here, it will have employees that are there on a daily basis. It will also have people from the community that are coming in to use that makerspace. And so we really do see that there can be some collaboration and that stickiness that's really necessary for those entrepreneurs to come here and then stay here. And then Westfield Creative Collective, this is a group, it's a nonprofit organization that is working in collaboration with Noblesville Creates. Noblesville Creates is the same entity that is putting together our arts master plan for the city of Westfield. And they have, Westfield Creative Collective has been doing an extensive study of the creative entrepreneurial system here in Westfield, which is underserved. Businesses that have artistic processes, and that could be from digital to physical creative processes. So it could be a marketing company, it could be someone who does digital graphics, it could be someone that paints, someone that does sculpture, ceramics. They're looking for places for studio space. They're looking for places to put their art on display in gallery environment. And I think that this creates yet one more location here within the building that creates a sense of community, sense of place. Furthermore, we do anticipate with the build out of Grand Park, and particularly the Grand Park District and the ice hockey facility that we are still working through the procurement process on, that we're going to need spaces that are close to the campus for owner-developer coordination. This could be a great place to have the construction companies not build out all temporary trailers out on the campus, but be able to rent some space from the Community Development Corporation to hold those meetings. These are costs that the city or the RDC would be incurring during the construction process. So we do have the opportunity that the city or the Community Development Corporation could be earning some of those dollars back from the project, which would otherwise just be spent for rental of equipment. That was a lot. I know that I've covered a lot of topics here for Market Court. Maybe I pause here to see if you have any questions.
Okay, any questions from commission members?
Okay.
Okay.
Few updates on Union Square. We do need to get some updated photos. The Sun King and H Steakhouse photos that we've had are a bit out of date. I didn't even bring the new I didn't bring H Steakhouse information here because the photo is still from, I believe, August. But we do know that H Steakhouse is still planning to open here in the winter. I believe January 2026 is their target right now, which is the latest I saw on their social media posts. I think they were hoping to open before the holidays, but may be slightly aggressive with only having a bit over a week left. And the reason I brought Union Square up here is that we're bringing a topic to you that came to our attention specifically with one of our local businesses that has located in the Union Square building. The parking declaration that was executed between Old Town and the Redevelopment Commission and the Westfield Building Corporation includes a $40 a month parking pass that is collected by Old Town when the tenants sign their leases and pay for their leases every month. So the tenants who live in the residential units pay a $40 fee to be able to have a 24-hour a day, 24/7 parking pass at Union Square. The employees that are working in this building, a fair number of them are part-time employees. They're not parking there every day. They're not parking overnight. And particularly for high school employees or part-time employees that are working at or near minimum wage, for them to spend $40 a month on parking may make it impossible for them to afford to work in this building. There's additional parking that's currently available on the street, or even potentially they could walk a couple blocks to the free parking that is on the gravel lot at Park Street. But especially for high school students who are trying to work after school. They'd be walking back to their cars in the dark. They made a request that we have a separate type of parking pass for employees. So we are coming to you with an adjusted parking declaration that includes a $10 parking pass for employees to make that more attainable. They would not be allowed to park overnight. It would just be, I believe, from midnight to, what do we say, 5? I think it's midnight to... Correct. From midnight to 5 a.m., employees would not be able to park, which would ensure that they're not bringing cars to the facility and then just leaving them to store them. So we'll talk more about that when the parking declaration comes up, but these businesses are the reason that we brought this to you. Construction updates, again, photos of Sun King and H Steakhouse. These are a bit newer than the ones I had on the previous slide. Coming along nicely. Ambrose on Main will also get some updated project photos here. We do have, if any of you have driven by in the last couple of days, they have the stair towers all in place. You can see them just a bit in this image, kind of right here, right here. Those are in the air, they're all block, so you can see the full height of the building, and the steel is starting to be built in this area, which is the building footprint, so exciting to see this actually coming to fruition. And then Grand on Main, this project had a groundbreaking last week. We happened to be there on a very cold and windy day. Enjoyed the company of the developer and some city employees and community members who came out to celebrate this really exciting advancement for the gateway into our downtown. And that is, that's what I've got for you guys today.
Okay, any questions for Janelle? Okay, seeing none, are you going to speak about the ice hockey?
I would like to have Adam Collins come up and just give all of you just a brief update so that the public can also hear kind of where we are in the procurement process and where we're going from
Great.
here.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Adam Collins with Wallach, Summers and Haas. And I'll just give a brief update of what we've done today, where we are, and then the remaining steps that are present that the Commission will see going forward. So the BOT statute requires a handful of things be done, but one of them is that a resolution be authorized to approve that procurement method, which has been done here. Since then, we've drafted a request for qualifications and proposals, which is a procurement document that we take out to the market. That's been provided, that's been noticed as was required by statute, and we received 5 responses from different bidders. All quality responses. Those 5 were shortlisted to 4. The shortlisting was done by an evaluation committee. It has 5 members selected by the commission in addition to a handful of advisory members and technical consultants, including ourselves. That committee went through, shortlisted that group from 5 to 4. Of the 4, 1 then withdrew, and a revised document has been sent out with more specific information so that we have the opportunity to compare what they're proposing in terms of a facility and its operation, a little bit more of a like-to-like comparison than we've had in the past. So currently going through the process of receiving that additional information. Once that's done, the evaluation committee will narrow that down to 1 selected offer. Once that happens, that will be brought to the commission, and the way in which that's done, we have to hold a public hearing. And so in advance of the public hearing, a memo will be drafted that will cover the process we went through, the reasons for the evaluation, the recommendation. That will be provided to the public along with the proposals that were submitted at least a week in advance of the hearing, along with public notice itself. Once we have the public hearing, which will happen here at the commission, what we'll do is bring forward a resolution asking for the commission to approve 3 different things. One is approval of the selected offer, so the bidder we want to work with initially. We'll also ask that, in addition to that, that the executive director be authorized to negotiate and draft a public-private agreement, which is the agreement that covers the construction and operation of the facility. And then lastly, approve not to exceed amount for an initial scoping phase that allow us to get that project designed up until the point that we receive a guaranteed maximum price. Once that's done, the team will start working with the developer. They'll go through the programming, design scope, and come back and provide the city and the commission with a guaranteed maximum price proposal. At that time, that'll be brought back to the commission for approval. So again, we'll have an idea of what would the total cost of the facility be for that public project. Once approved, that's really the end of the statutory process for build, operate, transfer. But then what we'll see are the typical financing processes that you guys see all the time as it relates to the construction of public projects. So I think there's still some, information to be determined on how that might happen, what the exact source of revenue is, what the cost is precisely, because we don't have that at this time. But all of those will be brought back, and those are the additional areas where the commission will really have the opportunity to weigh in on the meaty parts of the project in terms of what is the scope, how much will it cost, and who's the team that we've selected. Happy to take any questions at this time.
Okay. Any questions for Adam? Okay.
Okay,
Very
thank
good.
you.
Thank you very much. Okay, anything else, Janelle, before we go to new business?
I do not have anything else.
Okay. First item of new business is a public hearing on the lease for the Park and Poplar project.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I believe I covered most of the topics in the presentation previously. I'll bring this back up in case you have any questions that you wanted to ask before we start going into the actual public hearing. But again, this is for the lease rental bond for the Park and Poplar project summary. I also have Dustin Meeks here to present about the bond itself.
Okay.
Good evening, President Blankus and Commissioners. Dustin Meeks with Barnes and Thornburg. So tonight before the Commission and the topic of the public hearing is the approval of a lease agreement where the Redevelopment Commission is co-lessees with Park and Poplar LLC, which is the developer of the Park and Poplar project, and leasing specifically the garage facility that is going to be the subject of the city's financing in support of the Park and Poplar project from the Westfield Park Street Building Corporation, which is a special purpose entity that the city created. The city will issue economic development revenue bonds, and it will loan the proceeds of those bonds to the Park Street Building Corporation. And the Park Street Building Corporation will pay its loan using lease rentals that it receives as the lessor under this lease. So this lease is the financing mechanism by which the Redevelopment Commission will bring its revenues into the financing transaction because the city is going to put its credit behind the financing of the garage, which is just a necessary function of getting the deal done in this transaction. We have this lease and loan mechanism, so to comply with the statutory limitations on economic development revenue bonds. Happy to answer any questions. The term of the lease is 25 years, and the maximum annual lease rental is $2 million. And as Janelle noted, $19 million max on the bonds, but that is in excess of what is anticipated.
Question from commission members.
Janelle, I have a question. I don't know if it's maybe for Oscar or you, but so you said we'll have the ability to issue more in case the ready grant's not ready in time, so we can cash flow. Understand that part. If we issue more, though, the ready grant comes. Is that the $4 million that you're looking for from the IDC?
Yes, the ready grant is money from the IEDC.
So if we issue the full extra for cash flow purposes, so we now have $4 million, we're going to get $4 million. What are we doing with that $4 million once then we?
Let me clarify. We're asking for approval for a series of bonds up to 19 million, but the intent is that we would issue one bond for only the amount that we need. And I'm going to ask Oscar if he can come up and talk about the amount. So you don't have the amount? Okay. So we will only issue a bond for the amount that is required to build the garage. There would be no reason for us to request a bond that was more than what we need because we could only use it to pay for the garage. It's restricted. So the reason that we're having more approved is so that we do have authority to issue bonds up to the amount necessary to build the garage in the event that the cash flow position for the garage requires that we are paying for the ready portion, the ready grant portion, before, well, let me rephrase this. We can cash flow the parking garage up to the point that we have the $4 million cash bond that was already approved and the initial bond. We have all of that cash flow available to pay for a portion of the garage up to the balance of the 4 million that's expected for the READY grant. The expectation is that the READY grant would be used to pay for the early costs on the garage, so we would have the READY grant money come back to us before we need to spend all of the money from the bond. However, in the event that the IDC does not pay us the grant in time, we want to make sure that there is money available to pay for the whole garage. And it would not require an additional approval, but it would require an additional bond issuance.
Understood. So my question, I guess, and for Oscar is, if we issue the bond, grant comes second, so we've
It
issued.
would be a short-term note where the repayment would
Thank
be
you,
the
that
ready
was my
grant.
question. Yeah.
Thank you, Oscar.
Okay. Any other questions for Janelle or Justin? Okay, if not, we will open up the public hearing at 6:37. David, do we have, since we have anybody in the audience here that cares to speak on this topic? Seeing none, David, do we have anything from your end?
Not at this time.
Okay, we will close the public hearing at 6:37 and move on to the resolution 52-2025, resolution of the City of Westfield Redevelopment Commission approving the form and authorizing the execution of a proposed lease among the Westfield Park Street Building Corporation as leaseor and Park and Poplar LLC and the City of Westfield Redevelopment Commission as co-leasees and authorizing certain matters related thereto. That's a mouthful. We have any questions or comments on the resolution?
I just need to state for the record, due to a potential conflict, once again, I need to abstain from voting on actually both action items 1 and 2 on the agenda.
Okay, we will, so note that, Larry, thank you very much. If not, we were ready for a motion for approval of resolution 52-2025.
Make a motion to approve resolution 53-2025.
Okay,
Sorry,
Brian Tom
52.
Michael motion, do I have a
52
second?
I'll second.
Second, Steve Latour, thank you very much. David, please take the roll.
Joe Plankis,
Aye?
John Dart, Brian Tomamichael,
Aye.
Steve Latour.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-0. Thank you much. Next item is Resolution 53-2025. That is a resolution of the City of Westfield Redevelopment Commission regarding amendment to amend and restated declaration for Union Square. Janelle?
Thank you, Mr. President. As I had explained during the executive director's report, there is a modification to this parking declaration for Union Square, which has allowed for a second type of pass. So again, previously, there were $40 parking passes. Old Town is allowed to distribute up to 300 monthly passes. And there was a request to make a second type of pass available for employees, which would cost $10 a month. There is still only an available 300 monthly passes available. We have not specified in the declaration that a certain number of them should be employee passes or resident passes. That is really up to Old Town to administer as it sees fit based on its population, based on its tenant needs. But this ensures that there are no more passes made available than there are parking spaces in the garage. And this just allows for employees to be able to park at a reduced rate, but not be allowed to park overnight. So they would be restricted from parking, for 24 hours a day. They would have to park only during those daytime hours, which will help with their part-time workers, particularly their younger high school workers that are working at near or close to minimum wage. Happy to answer any other questions that you might have about the declaration.
Any other questions for Janelle?
So just for clarification, there's how many parking spots in the garage?
301.
Total parking spots in the garage, there's
Total
301.
parking spaces in the garage, there are 301.
And they have, and Old Town has the ability to issue up to 301
Parking passes, yes.
parking passes.
Passes. Mhm.
I thought there were going to be open spots within,
There are open spaces. They are
Spaces,
not
so what is that?
reserving spaces. This just allows them to park there without paying a daily fee. All parking spaces are still first come, first serve. So if someone from the public goes to the parking garage and they pay a daily rate and there's an open parking space, they are allowed to park there.
So I guess I'm not clear then on the passes. How do the passes work? If they hand out, let's just say they hand out 300 passes, what does that mean? What does that mean if that person that has a pass comes in after somebody going to the park? They don't have a spot to park?
There are only 300 spaces in the garage. There are only a certain amount of spaces that can be made available. As Old Town builds out their phase 2 of Union Square, they may make additional parking spaces available for their residents. Residents can also park in the gravel lot that is available to anyone in the public. They can park in street spots. The 300 number has not changed.
What do we anticipate Old Town giving out in parking passes? I mean, you said it's up to 300. They can't give more than that because
They
there's.
cannot give more than 300.
But do we know how many they've given out to this point?
No, but they're not fully leased. So the intent is that they have one parking space that is designated for each living unit.
Yep.
And then they would have the ability to buy a second parking space if they have a 2-bedroom apartment, for example. So that if you had 2 people living there, that you could have a second person buy a space or buy a parking pass. They are not buying a parking space, they are buying a pass to park. It just means that they're not paying a daily rate.
Correct.
They're paying a monthly rate.
Okay.
Yeah, the availability of spaces is identical to what it would have been if they were paying Dennison for a daily fee.
Okay, good question, John, thank you. Okay, any other questions for Janelle? If not, I'm open for a motion for approval of Resolution 53-2025.
Motion to approve?
Okay, motion by John Dart. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Steve Latour. Thank you very much. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plankis,
Aye.
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Tomamichael,
Aye.
Steve Latour.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Next item is Resolution 54-2025, a resolution of the City of Westfield Redevelopment Commission regarding grant for land acquisition. Janelle?
Thank you, Mr. President. This resolution is regarding the Market Court property, which I had presented about earlier this evening. This is 18160 Market Court, and the Community Development Corporation, Downtown Westfield Community Development Corporation, has an agreement to purchase this property from the existing owners who are currently leasing the building to Westfield Washington Public Schools. And we are requesting that the Redevelopment Commission grant money to the Downtown Westfield CDC so that it can purchase this property. The amount that we're requesting is not to exceed $5 million. The purchase of the land itself is $3.95 million. We do anticipate that there would be additional investment into the building. It needs some repairs, it needs some renovations. We do know that there are HVAC upgrades or replacements that will have to happen. The parking lot is in disrepair, the building facade needs some work. The office spaces within the building are gonna need a facelift, probably new flooring, probably would like to enclose some offices or conference areas, and generally give the place a more appealing look for the businesses that we're trying to attract to the area. We also anticipate that we'll have some modifications that are happening to the open bay areas to make it more easily rented. There are 2 large areas within the building. One has some truck docking bays. They're all at grade, which is kind of nice because we would have the opportunity to open them up and be able to have indoor-outdoor opportunities if there was an event that wanted to be held there on the property, for example, or if there was a business that was bringing a lot of equipment in and out on a regular basis, they would have easy access into the building. And we also have that interest, of course, in building out some more studio spaces or maker spaces within the building. Additionally, we do have some miscellaneous expenses that the downtown Westfield CDC incurs on behalf of the city. And we're asking for this grant to also allow the CDC to use a portion of this grant to pay for those ongoing expenses. Some examples include some miscellaneous stormwater expenses that are paid to the city. We also have some miscellaneous tax bills that are paid when the CDC acquires land. And then generally, we have some leases that are paid for to lease property in the downtown for parking and for staging, particularly the Park Street properties on the north side of Park Street, where we have temporary parking, as well as on the parcel owned at Mill and Park Street at the very east end, which would be used for construction staging for the Jersey Street improvement project. So again, those fees are fairly miscellaneous. The leases are a couple $1,000s a month each, but we're just looking for some flexibility to be able to use some of this cash for those miscellaneous items. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, any questions?
Janelle, if council says no to this on Monday, does this approval override the council, or does council override this?
Well, the council's grant is from the general fund capital fund. So 266018, which is in the general fund. And that grant would grant the money from the 266 general fund to the redevelopment district capital fund, which is 244018. The reason that we are requesting that grant from the city council to the RDC here in 2025 is that it is in a non-reverting fund, but the money has to be reappropriated each year. If we were to request that grant in January, we would have to have a reappropriation of those dollars in 2026 before requesting the grant, which is the reason that this is coming to the city council in 2025. This is a resolution that authorizes the grant. This is not actually the grant. So the grant itself would not be signed until we have the money. This just authorizes that it can occur. We certainly cannot sign a grant if we don't have the money available to do so.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any
Janelle,
other questions for
I've got a couple of questions as I've thought through this a little bit more, and as I've mentioned to you prior, I'm a big fan of incubator space. I'm a fan of maker space and encouraging businesses to come to Westfield. I think once a startup finds its home in Westfield, it'll likely stay in Westfield. And so I'm a huge supporter of that. And I think other Hamilton County cities, probably Fishers and Noblesville and Carmel, have incubator space and maker space. My concern, though, is the from what I'm hearing, the cost isn't well defined. In other words, we know that the building and the land are going to be $3.9 million. But when I saw the pictures that you put up earlier of a 19,000 square foot facility with barely any walls or ceilings, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And then you mentioned the HVAC system, which could cost 50 to 100 grand. Then there's the parking lot, which is another 100, 150,000, potentially, right? We don't even know the exact cost. You've just outlined that there will be additional improvements needed. I'm just concerned that we don't have this nailed down. And quite frankly, we don't know yet which businesses and or maker space. I mean, you put up a pretty big laundry list of potential things, and it's all exciting, but when it comes down to it, we're gonna have to build out this facility specifically for those businesses that have committed to Westfield and et cetera. So I feel like it's a bit premature to ask for these dollars until we really get it nailed down. That's all.
Are you ready? Can I respond?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
please.
We currently are looking at a closing date in January for this facility. If the Community Development Corporation doesn't close on the facility, doesn't purchase the facility, I don't know what other opportunities that we will have to acquire land at this level of investment. This is under $4 million for 19,000 square feet. It's about $210 a foot. I do not believe I can build the shell of a building and buy land for $210 a foot anywhere in Westfield. So the first tier, if you will, is that the land and the building would be purchased. The second phase of this is building out that space. We do not have an exact number on this. We don't have that at this point. We will have that at some point. We do not have it yet. We do know that there is going to be some investment. There are some areas of the building that could be used immediately for some of the purposes that we already have outlined. I've worked in a lot of construction trailers over my lifetime. I guarantee I've worked in places that are in much, much worse space than anything that we saw in those photos, and I would have been happy to work in these spaces over the very cold, cramped, unsafe, unsteady, right? You're out there in the wind and the things are blowing around. I would happily choose to work in one of these conference rooms if I was working on one of our construction projects. So I do think that there are immediate ways that we can be using this building, and we will be in January working diligently toward the feasibility, design, fit out of all of the spaces within the building. I do not have it 100% worked out right now. We've been working on an ice facility primarily. This is the next thing.
Are there other options, in other words, with this resolution? I'd feel a lot more comfortable approving a resolution that was for $3.9 million and then having you come back and say, all right, we've done our due diligence, we've really worked this out, we've got all the quotes, it's going to be, whatever the number is, another $500,000 and request it at that time. I just feel like this number could be under 5 million, because you've got it in the resolution, but it could be over 5 million, and if it is, you're likely going to come back anyway and ask for additional dollars to finish this out, because the city's already made a big commitment in $4 million purchase. I just feel like we're over our skis at this point on everything that needs to be done to this building without a commitment from anybody coming in. And as I said, I'm a big fan of this, but.
Okay, if the commission would entertain modifying the resolution to, I would ask for 4 million, so that we have enough money to pay for closing costs, is 3.95 million, so that makes sure that we have closing costs covered. I would be very happy to have you approve enough for us to be able to close on the building. This is a very important initiative.
And then assume we did that, then what would happen is this would go to so we approve that we want to move, this commission approves that we want to move forward. The council approves that it goes from one fund to another, right?
Correct. Yep.
Right, so it could die next Monday, hopefully it won't, but it could die next Monday if they choose not to move the dollars from one fund to the other. Is that a fair statement, or is that
The
inaccurate?
council could choose not to grant money from one fund to the other. That is correct.
Okay. Yeah, so I would entertain your proposal, what you just stated. I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but.
I'm a little torn on waiting. We've got the school that's going to be in there leasing space for another 3 months beyond the end of the year. Obviously, that gives you time to do the planning for whatever needs to be done inside, outside, whatever on the property itself. I think in the past, we've certainly passed resolutions that allow for some leeway for a project of this type, if you would. So I guess I would say I'd like to leave it the way it is and move forward, but that's just from my past experience on the RDC over the last 17 years.
I have a question.
Other commissions.
I just have a question. So if this were approved as is, 5 million, but next week city council approves 4 million, it would still achieve at least acquiring the property. Correct?
Yes, we could still acquire the property.
But if it was approved as is tonight, city council could still approve a lesser amount next week or whenever the meeting is.
Correct.
So I just want to clarify if that,
Yep.
if it has to be the same here and the same amount of city
Correct,
council,
and-
they could approve a lesser amount.
Right. A grant, the actual grant would not be executed until there is money identified that could be granted. So this is not a $5 million grant. This is up to $5 million. So in theory, yes, if the city council grants a lesser amount, which it will be a lesser amount, because I don't think there's a full 5 million in the 266 fund. We'll have to get the actual number from Marla. So we would only receive a grant up to a certain amount that city council approves. So the grant from from the RDC to the CDC would not exceed that amount.
Do we have an idea how much without, I know Marla is not here.
Rachel or Oscar may know that answer. It looks like maybe Rachel does.
There's Rachel Baker, redevelopment manager. There's currently about 4.4 million available to the redevelopment district in that fund.
So why wouldn't we put this at 4.4 million if that's all that's there? And, yeah, I guess I'd leave it at that. Why wouldn't we just request that?
Because we do anticipate that there are going to be additional costs associated with this building. We know that there are going to be renovations. It's not just the purchase. And so rather than coming back to you time after time to ask for additional money, we came to you requesting money to purchase and renovate. We don't have to take a full 5 million, and it could be 4 million now, and there could be an additional small grant later that's covered under the same resolution.
But that-
once we have the identified costs for the
Okay.
renovation.
But that comes back to my original point, is that we know, the only thing that we know today is 3.95 million.
You're correct.
We don't know the additional costs that are going to be required, and I feel like it would be more transparent to this commission and more transparent to the council if we came back and explained that to the council on Monday and said, there will be additional costs beyond this $3.9 million. We're projecting, we're forecasting another million, whatever the number is. We will be more specific after the first of the year, after we do the analysis on the driveway or on the parking lot, after we do analysis on the HVA system, et cetera, to get this building up to speed. But to ask for 5 million when we don't have any idea. I mean, we just don't at this point. I think it's safe to say. That's kind of why I was proposing the cost of the building. I understand your point, Joe.
Yeah.
But I think this project is going to be highly visible, and as I mentioned earlier, there's council discussion about it, and I just want to be as transparent as possible. That's all. Thank you.
Let me throw out another thought. Let's say the 4.4 that Rachel mentioned. If this resolution were to change to that number, that gives us some leeway for upgrades, repairs, whatever, without having to slow down the process of seeking additional funds. So if it does end up being 5 million, let's say using John's figure of $1 million for additional improvements, where would the other 600,000 come from that we would need? What would be the process for obtaining those funds? From some TIF funds from within the RDC?
Likely, yes.
Okay, so it's possible.
I mean, we'd have to look at available funds. I, of course,
Right,
would work
right.
with
That would be obviously
Danielle and Oscar and
Oscar
Rachel
and the
to
team to
identify.
figure out what we have
sources.
available.
Correct.
Without overstretching the means, but, I kind of look at the 4.4, it looks like if we could make one transaction on the 4.4, that gives us some leeway, John, for still having Janelle come back to us and back to the council for saying, hey, this is what we're going to spend, even if it's a matter of communications, not necessarily a legal step that needs to be taken. Maybe we could take it all up front with the 4.4 transfer. Just a thought.
I'm going to share a thought.
Please.
So I'm going to put my old hat on for just a moment, and the chamber experience that I had and say that I concur with those who say that this is desperately needed by the community. We need this type of space, not only for people coming into the community, but also for existing businesses. I mean, one of the things that I thought about as Janelle was making the presentation is I can think of a dozen companies right now in Westfield that need meeting space and need presentation space because their offices can only hold their employees. And so they need a space, I know my company is one of them, that needs to be able to, go and showcase that. Now, I also can respect what John's saying in that we want this to be a showpiece for the community. We want it to look nice. We want people to see this as a reflection of Westfield. I think that, as we know, based on what's happening in our community, it's never going to be cheaper than today. So if I'm reading the tea leaves from across the table, I think that Janelle's probably going to get the transfer that she's requesting from City Council if it's this $4 million amount to secure the facility. And I think she's open to coming back with a proposal that says, here's what it's going to take to make it Class A, and here's what it's going to take to make it Class B, depending on what we want to showcase as a community. Is that a fair statement? So I'd say today, we need to get this locked down and approve, securing the facility and the building, approving if both are amendable to changing it to 4 million, let's do that, Joe. And then their team, more than capable, can come back and get the, presentation that says, here are your options for construction.
And Steve, I'm okay with 4.4 million because that's
Okay.
that's what's available.
Okay.
Right? And that gives the flexibility to start the process and move forward. It may not be ultimately what the team needs, but it gets the ball moving forward and has, 400, you can probably do a lot with 400 grand. Hopefully, get some businesses or some space ready to be utilized.
Having just renovated something for where I work, a good chunk of probably 25 to 50,000 might just be all of the renovation blueprints and architect things and stuff, depending on to the extent that you need a loan. So being able to have those dollars for them to get that process started, I think would be great.
I'd like the suggestion from John of the 4.4, because I think that gives you some leeway. And if there's somebody that steps forward, as Steve mentions, that needs meeting space or whatever, you can really move forward with that in that 90-day period before the schools move out, because you may be able to do some things within the building and not slow down the process of starting up, you might say, the incubator space with whatever modifications are made inside the building.
I appreciate that.
So do you have to have an official motion then, revised motion here?
Motion to change it, and then they vote on that motion, right? Or they vote on that modification, and then they vote on the amended resolution.
What do we need, Ryan? Just a revised motion at 4.4 instead of 5? And obviously modify the paperwork?
Yes, obviously you have to modify the paperwork. So you can either vote to modify the resolution as drafted and then vote on that, or simply vote to approve the resolution as drafted with the modification that.
Of 4.4 instead of 5?
Yep, correct.
Okay.
Yep, that works for me.
Okay. Okay, with that discussion, would someone like to make the motion to modify the resolution?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 54-2025 with a modification of adjusting the $5 million grant to $4.4 million grant.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second?
Second.
Second from Larry Kemper?
Brian said it first.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'm sorry, okay.
I made the motion.
We'll give it to Tom and Michael. He's a good man. Okay, John Dart, motion, second by Tom and Michael. David, please take the roll.
Joe Plankis,
Aye.
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Tamamichael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper,
Aye.
Steve Latour.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, team.
Thank you all. I appreciate the compromise.
Okay.
This will be a successful path forward. Thank you.
I'm sure it will be. Good, it's in good hands. Okay, next item is the 2026 Boundary Consulting Engagement Letter. Janelle?
Since Oscar is here, I'm going to let Oscar present any changes that he might want to highlight from last year's engagement. I expect a lot of this will look very similar to last year.
Thank you. For the record, Oscar Gutierrez, Boundary Consulting. Actually, the agreement is almost the same. We just had listed out more options before for the amount of allocation areas that we would bill by, but because you guys have exceeded those, we only listed what is relevant to Westfield specifically. But while our fees remain the same, we do expect more work next year because of all the activity going on. So our total compensation should be going up because of the additional activities going on in Westfield.
Okay.
But the fees are the same.
Questions from Oscar, from commission members?
I just want to thank you I've been on a pedestal or on my soapbox for the last couple of years about fees. And I know you're going to earn more because you're doing more for the city, but your fees have not changed. I've kind of compared 2025 to 2026, and I appreciate.
We don't bill by the hour, but
Yeah,
if we did, we
exactly.
probably would be wasting
Exactly.
them if we did.
Correct. But you bill by the project or whatever, by the initiative, and those numbers have stayed the same, and I appreciate you finally listening to me. Thank you.
I'd like to also add, Oscar, that not only what John said, but I think many may not know just the philanthropic level that you and Bondry are involved within the community and the amount of organizations that you support across Westfield and Hamilton County, really. So I just thank you for supporting all of those organizations through that effort as well.
I'll second that comment for
Thank
sure.
you. It is home, so
Yeah.
I don't mind.
The only request I would have, Oscar, is get some green shrubbery on it, next picture, maybe in the spring. Just kidding. Okay.
I'll motion to approve the Bondry Consulting Engagement Letter.
Okay, motion by Steve Latour. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, John Dart, second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plankis.
Aye.
John Dart.
Aye.
Brian Tomamichael.
Aye.
Larry Kemper.
Aye.
Steve Latour.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Next item is the 2026 Wallach, Summers, and Haas Engagement Letter. Janelle?
Oh, Ryan is also here, so I could let him go over any changes, but I know his are minimal. I do want to highlight one change that we've made at the request of Caitlin Glazer this year, that we have separately engaged Wallach, Summers, and Haas for the downtown Westfield CDC. So they do have their own engagement letter, and I would say as far as other content within the engagement letter, everything is identical from last year, correct?
Yes, other than the dates, and we did modify the period for payment from 30 days, I believe, after invoice to 45 days, so it's to your benefit. But our rates are not increasing, so rates from 2025 will continue into 2026.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Ryan. Appreciate that. Any questions regarding the engagement letter?
I thank you again for keeping rates consistent with the prior year. Thank you.
Yep. Great effort on your part too, Ryan, and your whole entire team. We appreciate it. Okay, we have a motion for approval on the floor.
Motion to approve
Okay,
the
John
Wallach,
Dart.
Summers, and Haas engagement letter for 2026.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Ryan Tomamichael, second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plankis.
Aye.
John Dart.
Aye.
Brian Tomamichael.
Aye.
Larry Kemper.
Aye.
Steve Latour.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Next item is the 2026 Barnes and Thornburg engagement letter. Janelle?
I'm going to have Dustin come up and present on this one. Unfortunately, he's probably not going to be able to say the same thing, so.
Well, I'm going to say,
he's gonna have to
it's not
defend Brian
very
Burke.
nice of Oscar and Ryan to have teamed up like this. Commissioners, no structural changes to the firm's engagement. We joined in the 45-day payment thing at the request of Rachel and Janelle, and then Our rates have increased, but that is in line with our firm's policy, and we have a committee that evaluates the national legal market in which our firm operates, and the rates are increased in line with both that market as well as the commensurate increase in the experience of the team year over year. For what it's worth, I do get upgraded in title to senior associate next year. So if I'm slightly more expensive, I'm also now senior. But happy to answer any questions that you might have about the engagement. No other structural changes.
I thought you needed gray hair if you're going to be a senior, Justin.
Brad tries on giving me gray hair, but he hasn't succeeded entirely yet. I have a tasteful salt and pepper if you get close enough.
Okay,
Well,
very good.
Dustin, thank you for the extended terms. That's much appreciated. That definitely helps the city. Again, I think at a time when the state of Indiana is going through some issues around SEA 1 and everybody's watching their pocketbook, and the city of Westfield has asked, the departments to decrease spend by 5% in 2026. While I understand increases, the increases that are coming from your firm are anywhere from 15 to 20%, depending on the individual. That's pretty steep. I don't know if anybody in this room has gotten a 15 to 20% increase in their pay or their fees for the new year, and I just think we can't look at what you're doing nationally. You have to look at the state of Indiana is different than other firms, and you've been a good partner with the city of Westfield, but I think it needs to be reconsidered. So appreciate everything you've done so far. I mean, you really do appreciate what you've done for us.
Certainly happy to facilitate a conversation with Brian Burdick as well, who's the person who really makes the letter decisions.
Yep, no problem.
Okay. Any other comments, questions from Commission
I'd like to add just a couple of things on this particular engagement letter. I do want to highlight the ongoing relationship that Barnes and Thornburg has offered to us with Bruce Donaldson, retired counsel. Bruce continues to be serving us on an advisory capacity at no charge. This has been a very beneficial arrangement for our Redevelopment Commission and our staff to be able to call on his experience and have him as an invested member of the Westfield community provide his insights. I also want to highlight that we have really over the past year increased our discussions and our support by Dustin Meeks. Brad is very experienced and very expensive, and he's done an amazing job of mentoring Dustin, and he has been capable, more than capable, to handle a lot of the business that previously the Redevelopment Commission and our staff would have only trusted Brad with. And so I think this speaks very highly of his abilities as a mentor and Dustin's abilities as a protege. And I just do want to highlight what a great job that he's done in helping us be more careful with the way we're spending by just choosing more affordable, qualified staff.
Okay, thank you, Janelle. I take back my statement, Justin, on your gray hair. Okay, do I have a motion for approval of the engagement letter? I'll move that we approve the engagement letter as presented.
Second.
Okay, Larry Kemper, second. David, please take the roll.
Joe Plankis,
Aye.
John Dart,
No.
Brian Tamamichael,
Yes.
Larry Kemper,
Aye.
Steve Latour.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-1. Thank you very much. Go on to other business. The next regularly scheduled meeting will be in January 20th, 2026. It's a Tuesday, just to put on your calendar because of the Martin Luther King holiday on the 19th. So please note the change on the day of the week that we will be meeting in January. Any other input from commission members? If not,
Mr. President, I have one final comment that I'd like to provide before you close the meeting, if it's all right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to say a quick thank you to two of our commissioners that are going to be rolling off of the RDC at the end of the year, John Dart and Larry Kemper. Thank you both for being a part of our group over the last couple years. Your advisory services for free. You don't get paid anything to be here. I appreciate all of the time, the expertise. It really means a lot to all of us. We'll be sad to see you both go. Looking forward to training some new commissioners in your place in 2026. You're always welcome to come visit us anytime. But I do have some cards here and a token of our appreciation for your service. If you could stick around for just a minute, I'll hand these off to you before you take off. Thank you very much.
Yep, truly enjoyed the time the last 2 years. I've learned a great deal about what the RTC does and how it works with the rest of the city. And Janelle, you've been a great leader, and wish you all the best of luck. I think we're going to continue to see great things from the RDC and the entire city of Westfield.
Thank you.
I'd just like to second Janelle's comments. I think we've had a great working team here, and certainly Larry and John were a good part of it, and we appreciate their service for the time that they were here.
Thank you. It's
With
been a pleasure to serve.
With that being said, meeting's adjourned. And David in his paperwork. So don't leave, guys.